Hello and welcome to another edition of the Moving Iron Podcast. This podcast is proudly provided by Axon, helping dealers move more iron for almost 100 years. Find out more at axontire.com. Axon was started almost 100 years ago out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. It's that same passion that drives them today. With a vision for a better experience for both farmer and dealer, they set out to create a better way to move more iron. When you partner with Axon, you get immediate access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. Axon carries all major brands and sizes of tires, wheels, and tracks. From custom colors and sizes to fully customized wheels, you can have the solution for virtually any problem today's farmer is trying to solve. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit axontire.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast number 205. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for almost 100 years. Find out more at axontire.com. Also, TractorZoom delivering insights. And if you're looking for a great place to go look up auction values, check out TractorZoom and Iron Comps. You can't get enough good stuff out of those guys. So, as normal, I got Aaron Findle back here with me on our Friday edition of the Moving Iron Podcast. And Aaron, how you been, buddy?
I have been fantastical.
That's great. Fantastical. I don't think you can get much better than that.
I don't think so. I think that is the upper echelon of fantastic.
That is the upper 1% of that. So,
it's technically wouldn't, if you're fantastical,
yeah,
that would be considered being fantastic.
Yeah. I think you've narrowed that down.
We should cue the quintessential lady on that vocabulary lesson real quick.
Oh, that's funny. That's a good one there.
In case anybody wants to know, that's my mother. She's like an English whiz. So
yeah, it's
she's often ashamed of my vocabulary.
Nice thing about the Moving Iron Podcast is that it's laden with inside jokes that nobody else gets but me and Aaron. So that's great for all the listeners out there, right? So,
yeah. Yes.
That's the best place to have inside jokes is on a podcast that people listen to. Yeah.
When you can't see any facial expressions or anything, what the hell? Exactly. We have 10 years of inside jokes, no less.
Yeah, we've got a pile of inside jokes.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's 21.
Okay.
It's the 10th anniversary of, hey, I got an idea for this new job.
Oh, yeah.
Let me run this by you.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. This is about when I hit you up for this gig that you're in now.
No, we did it at the end of 10 when we were doing the 8R presentations at all the stores.
Right.
As you mapped it out on the tablecloth at Ogallala that night.
I do remember that, yep.
But I started in January.
Yep, that's right. I forgot about that. That is correct, yeah. I forgot about the tablecloth sketch. It was me and you, and I don't remember who else was there giving the pitch, but it was...
Chad, I think, was there.
It might have been, yeah. But anyway...
Jared Wyatt, I believe.
Yep, and I laid it all out to you, and you were like, I like this. I like this idea.
Yeah. I was like, oh, you mean there is a specific job exactly for my personality out there? Terrific.
Yeah. And it's not in the circus, so it's good. There's stuff there. All right, man. All right, so let's take a look at what's going on. Markets have been all over the place. Things have been crazy. We got ups and downs and major swings going all over the place. I got my GameStop stock bought so I could watch it go up $1 billion a day, so it can just eventually crash to nothing. That's usually how that works. But as you sit back and look what's going on, what are you selling the most right now? Tractors, okay.
Tractors is number 1, combines is number 2, planters is number 3, sprayers is number 4, tillage would be number 5.
So you're selling stuff for spring, basically.
Yeah.
Shocker. Imagine
I know,
that.
it's hard to believe here at the end of January.
That's a shock. That's a shock.
I know. The worst part is, for where we live, it feels like spring, and it shouldn't.
It shouldn't feel like spring.
We should have a foot of snow on the ground and wake up to 0, but Today it's going to be 55 degrees.
Yep.
And I looked ahead, like the first 4 days of February is almost 60.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the weather patterns are very odd right now, and we're very La Nina for sure, and that's very dry. We didn't get. I mean, it's a blessing in disguise, I guess. But had we got the 12 to 14 inches of snow that the eastern half of the state got, we'd probably be singing a little different tune right now going into plant season. So,
not really.
Well, first time in a long time that we're going to plant if things don't change, that we're going to plant into a dry subsoil moisture table, and that's kind of a scary thing when you think about it.
It's really scary when you're on water allocations and you have to water the crop up.
Yeah. When you
makes for a long year, my man.
That is for sure. So, nonetheless,
but see, here's why I said that about not really missing out on that foot of snow. Mm-hmm. My father, who I call on often on here with his sayings and ideas and whatnot, he has a saying about really dry snow. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter, it's like feathers. So I called him yesterday, and he's got this little 666 International that he only leaves on the box scraper, right? Like self-propelled box scraper, because he can justify having it as a toy.
Right.
So he calls me the other day at 10:30 while I know it's just getting, the day after they got hammered over there. Mm-hmm. And I said, you on your third tank of fuel on that little thing? No, can't even use it. Too much snow. Doesn't do any damn good, though. It's like feathers. And I start cracking up. And I said, I knew it. I knew that's what it was going to be, was got a foot of feathers. Don't do any good.
Yeah. We've had our fair share of feathers fall out here this year.
That's all we've had is feathers, but we only get an inch of feathers.
Yeah, it's...
Like, literally, the snow melts on the sidewalk, and the sidewalk is dry.
Well, where I keep my dog at, and I go out and feed him in the morning, the snow melts and there's no mud. There's no mud in the dirt. Like, it's just dirt. It's not even wet. Something.
Good time to be in the dry land grass hay business.
Exactly. I bet you're jacked about that.
I am so jacked, and I'm glad I bought even more equipment this winter.
Well, you'd have done that irregardless, so it doesn't matter.
You beat me to the punch. Yeah. Even if it's just to drive around the outside of the shed.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah. We got a swather now, boys.
Some people have an illicit drug problem. Aaron has a buying equipment problem that.
Yeah.
It's an issue. You should probably go to Tractors Anonymous or something like that and see if you can't get it fixed. Do a 12-step program.
You know what Tractors Anonymous is called?
What?
Swap meet. Or an auction.
Yeah, that's true. That would be true. That'd be true.
A consignment sale.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the tractors that you're selling and what you see happening out there. Are the majority of the tractors you're looking at, are they bigger row crop tractors? Is that what you're looking at? Or are they looking at four-wheel drives?
Large row crop. Everybody's looking for four-wheel drives.
Yeah.
Everybody across the nation, farmers, dealers, John Deere, we're all looking for four-wheel drives.
Right.
There aren't any to be had.
Right.
What I'm moving a hell of a lot of is high horsepower row crops, 5-year-olds. I should say 2 to 5-year-olds, some 10s. No, I'll get more vague. 2-year-old to 15 to 10-year-olds.
Gotcha.
By and large. You still got your 30 series hunters out there. And those guys are still wanting the 5,000-hour tractors that were out there 5 years ago, and now they're 8,000-hour tractors, but now they don't want them because they're 8,000-hour tractors.
Right.
So,
yep.
I was talking to a wholesale buddy of mine yesterday, and I know I've mentioned this on the podcast, Casey. To this day, I cannot believe that 2010 8Rs are not like the absolute mecca of tractors.
Right.
Because you have, as far as emissions and electronics, it's 100% a 30 series tractor, but you have an 8R cab.
Right.
Why is that not the ultimate tractor of the universe?
That's a good question.
And that wholesaler I'm talking to, he's like, yeah, no kidding. He's like, I got one here. He's like, they're so damn hit or miss. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
You can get a guy to buy an 8530 and probably pay more than that 2010 345.
Yeah.
And the 345 is a better tractor, doesn't have any more emissions, has a nicer cab.
Right.
Like, I don't get it.
Right. Yeah,
And it has telematics.
Well, yeah. That's a great point, because when you look at those two machines, the only real difference is that 8345, that first 8-year, 2009, 2010, 8345. First gen is the only thing different about it. It's a interim tier 4 engine, right? And that is no, it wasn't then.
No,
that's the next year.
That's 3.
That's still a tier 3 engine. You're right. Okay,
The filter is interim 4.
Right. That's right. That wasn't until 2011, right? That's when that happened. So yeah, it's a new series of tractor, basically the same machine, and it's going to have a little more technology on it. You can you do the JD Link thing. Not that you can't do it on your 8530, but that platform was developed for that generation of machine.
Right.
So there's plenty of opportunity there to take a look at those machines. Now, those type of machines, if you can find them, that've got 5,000 hours or less on them, people are looking for them, and that's going to be tractor guys are out there trying to run down, because as you take a look at what they can do with them and what they are, back to your point, it's a different cab on a 30 series tractor for the most part, and there's a few other little intricate things that are different about it, but for the most part, it's just a better cab machine. It's got some other stuff on there, and they're easier to find. They made the hell out of those tractors in 2009, 2010. So
and that's it. But technically, Casey, even though those tractors were built in September of 9 to what was it, April?
Yeah.
Of 11, I think.
Yep.
You almost have 2 years in there.
Yeah.
Almost every one of them is labeled a 2010.
Right.
Even technically, the ones built in September are a 10. There's no such thing as an 09 345.
Right. Yep.
They're technically all 2010s. They unleashed them early, or released them. They released them early now. So, anyway, back to my point with that. I think, here's the problem. They're made basically 1 year. Okay? We just mapped out almost 2 calendar years, but by model year, it's 1 year, whatever.
Right.
And they're an R. The R's that after that 1 year had the filter.
Right.
I think everybody thinks that first Gen 8R is an IT4, even though it's a Tier 3.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's buyer lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Is what I in the marketplace, not a specific demographic.
Well, I think
the marketplace in general.
Yeah. The R's are lumped in
maybe it's
there.
us as dealers. Why isn't that parked up on the rock pile under the sign with the spotlight on it, under the American flag?
Right.
Maybe that's the problem.
Well,
I don't know.
I think the R is that association with an R that's when the emission things took off, and
exactly
that's where that association is. Because to your point, that first 2010 model machine was a very short production cycle. I mean, it was very sought after too, because everyone knew that was a Tier 3 engine, and that they were going to this interim Tier 4 thing. And at the time, Case had their solution, whether it was the urea thing, AGCO had their thing, and then Deere was like, we're just going to put a diesel particulate filter in there. We're just going to spray more diesel in there to make it hotter. That's what we're going to do. And that was a very short production run, and I think that's a key thing people forget about when they go. I forgot about it till right now, until you brought it up. Yeah. I totally forgot about that. So, and I'm in the business, so it tells you that it's the association with that is definitely something that you got to keep in your mind. So yeah, that's probably one of those things where if you have a 2010 8345 or whatever, at the time that was the big one, it's worth putting Tier 3 engine in the description of that machine, because that's going to be That's to some people, that's a huge selling point, especially if it's got the hours on it that they're looking for. So there's an opportunity there to sell a piece of equipment just because of its quote unquote lack of technology at the time.
Yeah,
to today's standpoint, you know what I mean? So
we just mentioned an 8R, and then in the next breath you said lack of technology.
Yeah, comparatively, I mean that's the thing.
Right.
That's a crazy thing. So, I mean,
an 8345R or a 4840, they're about the same. Except that one got front foot. But and where I think of that, Casey, comes from a weird ass place. Shocker.
That is shocking. Yeah.
The tractor geek in me looks at the rare shit, right? Like someday, when I'm 75, somebody's going to have a 2,500 hour 2010 A320R in the back corner of their shed, and everybody's going to lose their mind,
Yeah. Yep. It'll be that.
I realize that isn't an 8675 RT.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be.
Cool.
And that particular year, that next generation guy, that was the first new tractor he bought, and I kept it on the farm since, and whatever else. And then, Machinery Pete's great grandson will be out there doing Machinery Pete, and he'll have some guy will be coming out there that'll be talking about his 8345R that he bought brand new in 2010, 50 years ago. And
exactly. We watch it through telepathy.
Yeah. He goes, I don't know how to use it, though, because I have to drive it, so I don't quite understand how to make it work. So,
what is this deal?
It's got this round thing in front, and I'm supposed to do something with my hands.
Yeah. You mean I got to steer this son of a bitch? No way. I'm out.
Yeah, so it's that's a cool thought to think about that. But yeah, that's definitely something that if all the equipment folks out there, or you're a guy that's got one on the farm, you want to sell it, make sure that you put that out there. This is a Tier 3 engine, and I think it's going to be a big differentiator between the 2011 A345R. That's interim Tier 4. You know what I mean? So it's a big deal. That's a big deal. So, all right. So let's talk about the tillage pieces that you're looking at. What are you looking like? Strip tillage? You looking at vertical tillage stuff? Like what are you guys hunting out there right now?
Well, you're 2 for 2 on your guesses. Congratulations.
All right, sweet. Wow, cool.
Strip till is the main thing that's been moving. I guess you could call that tillage. I consider that more of the planning process personally. The other thing that's been pretty hot is VTs.
Yeah.
I haven't sold any, but I know our guys are selling a bunch.
Gotcha. Okay.
What about a lot of hunting planned all John Deere VTs the last couple of weeks, and guys have been plopping them pretty regular. So
what about high-speed discs? Anybody out there hunting for those?
I did some work on them year end. We bought a couple deers from other dealers for in territory sales. In the used marketplace, they're super, super hot. I honestly feel like, typically when something comes out, you have like a 5-year open window that everybody else jumps into business. With these high-speed discs, I feel like in 1 year, you saw not Demco. God, I apologize to Degelman. When you see...
It's got tanks.
You see Degelman come out with the crown jewel of all of them. Norwood comes out. There's been a couple others out. Of course, you had the Joker years ago, but it was targeted different than I feel they are now. Right?
Yeah.
It was more... The Joker was targeted more like specialty versus now it's like, oh, no, it's that, but everybody likes it.
Right.
Okay, so you got that first year that they really get hot on the scene. Next year, every damn company makes it.
Right.
I feel like you have a weird combination in the marketplace right now. For brand new, guys can get overwhelmed because which one am I supposed to buy? They all look the same. They all offer the same rear attachment. They most all offer the same blade combination. Which one do you buy?
Right.
They're all very pricey. Very pricey.
Yeah.
And you get into the game of, I've got buddies with 500 horse, 560 RTs pulling 33-foot Deglans.
Right.
33 foot with 560 horse.
Yep. Wait, think about the horsepower rate. I mean, you're trying to go 10 miles an hour,
Here's what, and that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
The Degelman is built like anything, painted yellow, and says Degelman.
Right.
They're not afraid of steel and welding up there.
They got plenty of welding sticks.
Hell for stout,
Yeah.
so it weighs so damn much, it takes that much more horsepower to pull it.
Right.
Whereas the JD and some of the others on the market don't take quite as much horsepower, still do a great job, but then you have guys, that Degelman, Kinsey, is built twice as heavy, it's going to last twice as long. Well, maybe, but it also takes another 100 horse to pull it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest part of that.
Hook up to your high-speed disc and then back it up to that semi-trailer full of coils of steel and pull that through the field, too, at 10 mile an hour. Then you know where you're at.
Well, that's one thing, too, about the tillage thing. So growing up in this business, it's always been 10 horsepower per foot. That's what you need, right? That's always been that math problem that they kind of figure out. You got 300 horsepower, 30-foot disc, don't worry about it. Get after it. You're good to go. Now, the same concept the guy's got, I got a 400 horsepower row crop. I'll get a 40-foot high speed. It's like, nah, you're not. No, you're gonna get a 20-footer. That's what you're gonna get.
Right.
Because
you go ahead and buy that 40-footer and then use that 8400R to park it in the shed.
Right. The idea that there's being able to go across the field at 10 miles an hour instead of 4 or 5 miles an hour is going to make a big difference. So technically, you're still getting the same amount of work done. That's the one thing. I think it goes back to the high-speed planter stuff that we've talked about a million times on here. Is that I thought that we would see a decrease in rows, right? So I thought if you had a 24-row planter, you're going to get down to a 16-row or 12-row, and you're going to be just happy. We didn't see that. Actually, we saw planters get bigger because, holy shit, let's get a bigger tractor now. I can go twice as fast and do twice as much. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So now my 24-row planter might be a 36-row planter or a DB90 or something like that, where they're
high speed.
And high speed. Now I've got 600 horsepower tractor that's going to pull it across the field. Man, not only am I doing more, I'm getting twice as much done twice as fast, and same concept goes back to the tillage thing. More high horsepower tractors are being sold now because of the idea of like, well, I still need that 40-foot disc, right? But if I can do it at 10 miles an hour, maybe that tractor investment's worth it. So now I can get the same per pass length done or width of the pass done, but I'm going to do it twice as fast. And nothing has sold more equipment than 2019 did and 2018 did, with all the flooding and short planting windows, all that stuff. So that idea of high-speed technology, whether it's disc, whether it's seed bed prep, or whether it's planting, in my opinion, has really launched that. Because four-wheel drives have always been kind of there, But the idea, how many people you talk to now, like, I'm really looking for that row crop four-wheel drive. I'm like, what are you talking about? What? Oh, where did that come from? Now all of a sudden you see it. Well, I need some of these row crop tractors that are 400 and 500 horsepower tractors. That's great. You got to weight the shit out of them to make them work, right? Whereas you get a 960R, 9620R or something like that, and you set it out there, before you put any weights on it, you got a 45,000 pound machine, right? Then you go stack a few more weights on it and everything else. Now you're up to that 50, 60,000 pound range. Now you can pull that 40-foot, 45-foot high-speed disc and just walk the dog all day long. And that to me is that rise of that horsepower. Like we talked about, we had a whole podcast one time where we talked about high speed or high horsepower row crop versus four-wheel drive, and where does that mix start to happen and start to take place. And in my opinion, I think the four-wheel drive is winning that battle in the long term.
I think you're right. And one thing I want to point out, Casey, we do a lot of row crop four-wheel drives here.
Right.
A lot.
Yep.
It's a big, big market for us. And it's funny to me because as you look back through the years, about the time I got here in '08, the 9220 was the
Right.
ooh la la row crop four-wheel drive, right? That son of a bitch was like 300 horse.
Right.
Then it became 9230, 9330. Nothing better than a high flow 9330 with 3-point PTO, right?
Right.
480, 50 Firestones. Oh, best thing on earth. 375 engine horse.
Yeah.
It's an 8370R in a big, big body.
Yep.
Flip the calendar or flip the book forward, 9420 or 9410.
Right.
Some 9360s,
Yep.
but 9410s. Then they become 9420s. Now we're seeing a lot of 9470s.
Right.
480, 50 rubber, 3-point PTO, high flow.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 470 horse row crop duty.
Yeah. You remember 10 years ago when somebody's like, if I could find a 4-wheel drive that had a PTO on it, that'd be great. It's like, well, you're not going to find one, but let's order one out of parts and put it on the back. No big deal. Nowadays, if you like, I'd really like to find a bareback 4-wheel drive. Like, what? Why would you want a bareback 4? I mean, that's that flip in mentality in the buying of the customers has changed 180 degrees in a very short amount of time. I mean, for the longest time, all a 4-wheel drive was just a big lunker of a hunk of iron out there with wheels on it that was heavy and could pull, right? Big implements. Most of the time, growing up where I grew up at, in central Kansas, there were 4-wheel drives out there, but most of them were pulling 60-foot air seeders and 50-foot air seeders and 40-foot air seeders, and that's what they were doing with them. And they were wheat specials, I used to call them all the time, because they were pretty well. They weren't very high spec rigs, right? And they were bareback, and they were, the pumps were small pumps because you didn't need the hydraulics that you need now. And that's the other thing too, is the hydraulic demand that these tractors have to put out, and the hydraulic reservoirs that they got to have on them now just to do these different things. I mean, hell, on the new 4-wheel drives now, there's a seeder package that you put on there, so you can run the hydraulic fan on the new.
Yes.
On the new, I mean that's a legit amount of, that's a whole separate system that's running something just totally by itself, and that's
exactly. And I've seen that on the new tractors, and I think that is awesome.
Yep, and that's the next thing now, because I remember for the longest time we were selling machines new, in the early 2000s that today you can't hardly even use on the machines on a new implement just because of the hydraulic demand that they have and where it comes from.
Right.
So there's a kind of thinking back and kind of going back a little bit on this thought process, but the more that I take a look at the 4-wheel drive tractor market versus the high horsepower row crop market, I'm starting to think that 4-wheel drive marketplace is going to be it's winning the battle, I think. I think the 4-wheel drive, row crop 4-wheel drive is winning the battle.
I think you're going to see that more and more too, Casey. The 4-wheel drive is going to be a more important part of the farm as boomers retire.
Right.
And this 12-row, 2,000-acre guy that did it by himself and got along fine, the bigs next door gobble up that 2,000 acres. They just got bigger. They went from 2 4-wheel drives and 6 8Rs to 4 4-wheel drives and 4 8Rs.
Right.
We see that kind of stuff happen a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think that's going to keep the 4-wheel drives going. Or maybe even that 2,000-acre guy, his son comes home from college and he's sitting very secure financially, and they expand greatly to get the son in the operation.
Yep.
At which point they trade their biggest 8R for a used Minor.
Yeah.
No,
that's all good points.
I think you're gonna keep seeing that to a point.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also gonna see row crops get bigger and bigger too. And keep in mind, if you have a 9410R weighted to specs in the weight, the specifications where you're supposed to look up how much weight for what job and change the tractor, which nobody ever does.
Right.
If you take a 9410R weighted properly and an 8400R weighted properly, that 8 will outpull that 9 every single day.
Yeah, that's true. That's a true statement.
Because you have less parasitic loss in the drivetrain of that 8 that you do in the 9. You lose a lot of power in that articulation and the drop box.
Yep, I had that same conversation with the grower the other day, talking about that same thing. Like, they were wanting to just go on the high side of the horsepower range on the 4-wheel drives and get rid of some of their smaller ones, and because they just didn't need them. I mean, they were just kind of, we have these, and we push some salads with them, those kind of things. But why couldn't we just make our big ones pushers too? I mean, it's the same. They're the same size, right? I mean, there's no.
Which I would prefer they do that.
Right. Yeah. So would everybody else, right? And they had a.
Oh, good, a 9370 with a dozer. Yay.
Yeah. There's not enough of those out there, and if you. But that same conversation. So we looked at, instead of going for a 9420R, we went down to a 8RT 410, and that's because you do the math on that same thing, the parasitic loss deal, going through different drop boxes and all the stuff that's there. Even though that machine is 20 horsepower or 10 horsepower less, you're still probably getting more horsepower to the ground with that 8RT 410 than you are on that 4-wheel drive. So those are some things I took, and you kind of taken that in consideration. I think that track is going to give you a little better, less slip. You're going to have a better footprint, and you're going to have more horsepower to the ground. So just out of the gate, you're going to. Now, the only other thing to take into consideration when you're doing that is the weight and how you're going to weight it up and what you're going to do with it. So that on a track machine, there's only so much weight you can put on it. Unlike a wheel machine where you can stack wheel weights and front weights and yada, yada, yada. There's those kind of things that come into that. So, no, I think there's a difference that the low end of the 4-wheel drive range, to me, is like we've talked about here, is getting squeezed a little bit because of that high horsepower tractor range. But when you really get into the horsepower demands of 4-wheel drives, what you see happening now, that 500 plus is really, that 4-wheel drive is winning that, and not the high horsepower tractor side of it.
Right.
So,
I agree.
Well, I think we nailed that one, dude. I'm just going to go out on a limb. So we got that. So we have the much anticipated, widely respected, and more sought after than a glass of water in the desert, Aaron Fintel's deal of the week.
Woo! Okay, on the topic of spring, today's deal of the week is a 2012 John Deere DR12 planter.
Outstanding.
DR stands for Deere Orthman. This is a 12-row, 30-inch CCS stack-fold planter. It has 13,000 acres on it. It has row command, Seed Star 2 variable drive with 3 motors, pneumatic downforce. It is set up for fertilizer on it, and it has a Surefire pump to deliver the fertilizer. No tank. Customer was using saddle tanks. Excellent, excellent little planter. And the special, the moving iron special on this planter is 53,000 ball hairs.
Did you say 153,000?
I said 53.
Get out of here with that. You're crazy, man.
Else this planter, it is the John Deere, just base, Seed Star drive.
Right.
But for 53,000, being 12-row, 3-point CCS, maybe, just maybe, and at only $53,000, maybe someone makes that a precision donor.
Could be.
That would be a hell of a nice high-level precision donor.
Yeah. Hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing to take a look at, too, especially with what you see happening there. The upgrade thing, we can talk about that ad nauseum again, but there is a lot of value there in whether you go with the Deere upgrade system or whether you go with the precision upgrade system. But there's a lot of value there that you're adding to a machine. I think we talked about. I think when we talked about it, and our opinion is that because of the way things all work together, buying a planter cheap enough you can make it into a new planter pretty simple. And I think that's a great point, Mr. Fennell. Good job, buddy. Good job. All right. So if people wanted to get that deal of the day, where would they go to do that at?
Well, I tell you what, we're going to throw it out on the Twitterverse. We have not done that for the last couple specials of the week. I think I did that one tractor. But we're going to, when I say we, I mean the helpless Aaron Fennell is going to do a better job of tweeting out that special after we record. So look for it already on Twitter when you listen to this podcast. And so I'm very active on Twitter, at Aaron Fennell, and Aaron is AA Ron. And you can call me or text me. Text preferred usually, 308-760-1193.
Right on, man. What's your throwback memory of the day?
You know, we've been talking about pickups, right?
Yes.
We talked about the 94 Dodge.
94 Dodge, yep.
We talked about the 88 Chevy.
Yep.
Got a little heart flutter there for a minute. It's widely known throughout the universe that I'm not a blue oval man.
That is a fair statement, yeah.
However, the year I was born, they became the highest selling pickup in America. Nice play with that with your fleet leases, Ford. But in the sport of throwback, I do like a couple of Ford pickups specifically.
Yeah.
The old factory high boy 3/4 tons.
Yes, those are nice.
And to piggyback onto them, 78 and 79 with the square headlight, but the 70s body style.
Yep.
Delicious pickup.
And
my uncle, when I was a child, had a 78 with a 400 big block and an automatic, full-time four-wheel drive. Blue, tan, blue. And if you remember in the 80s, they used to make those like scenes that you put in your back window, but it was like a screen you could see through.
Right. Yeah.
It had pheasants. You'll love this, buddy.
Yeah.
Pheasants flying up out of corn stalks.
Yeah. That was a mainstay. My grandparents, my grandpa was a Chevy man, and he was a Chevy man. Then he became a Ford man. So what do you do, right?
So it's genetic.
It is genetic. But he had a 1978 Chevy pickup heavy half.
Yeah.
And to pull the camper with, and it had a similar scene, but it had like mountains or something with the sun coming up over the mountains. I can't remember, but
right.
Yeah, I do remember that. And it was the tan, you know.
Beautiful.
It was a very nice truck, and it was.
You know what I miss? I miss two-tone.
Two-tone, yeah. It's never made its way out of the 80s. There for the while in the 90s, you had some early 90s.
Yeah,
but
in the 90s you had some, but in the 90s you went to more of 3/4 one color and then a different color on the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you get four choices. Oh, you can have silver or pewter or white or black or I guess red if you have to. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Where's green and dark green and blue green? And then throw some silver in the middle of that.
Yeah.
What happened, people?
You know, Ford did do a pretty good job in the mid-2000s when they brought in the King Ranch edition, because you had a two-tone. That was like a standard option. I can't remember what it was. It was like Arizona beige, and that was the tan, and then I don't remember what the red color was. I can't remember what that was called.
It was a very southwestern, like Red Rock related name too.
But that was part of that whole King Ranch edition, was that Arizona beige, whatever, with this either white or this red. Can't remember what the red color was, but it was that was cool. But yeah, those Ford pickups, I always remember those. I had a guy growing up that had a older, may have been like a early 70s, like a 75 or 76 truck that he had. It was this hunting truck, and it was, of course, he had to paint it camo, right? Because obviously, I mean, that way you can drive through the field, and I was like, what is that noise? I hear it, but I can't see anything.
Like, I smell burnt gas, but I don't see anything.
I don't see anything. And but it was the 4-door version of that 3/4 ton pickup with the 4 doors, and typically afford all that comes from the factory that way. They always set a little bit higher
Are you
anyway.
shitting me?
It was awesome.
A crew cab,
yeah,
70s, and it was 4-wheel drive?
And it was 4-wheel drive. Yeah.
What on earth? Go find him and give him my number.
Painted camouflage right from the get-go. So,
damn, man, that would be fantastic.
and then this would have been like 1989, 1990 when I was, because I remember getting into trying to get into the truck, right? Because I'd never been around 4-doors, so opened the cab to get in, and he's like, "Yeah, just hop in the back." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I'm trying to like figure out how to flip the seat forward so you can climb in, go in the back. I was slow as a kid. I'm not gonna lie to you, but there was. He goes, "No, just use the door." I was like, "Oh yeah, use the door. It makes sense. Why would you
don't have to go to every school in Kansas to figure that one out?"
That's exactly right. Yeah, you can just push the knob in and you're good to go. It's amazing how that works. It's awesome.
Now, quick side note.
Mm-hmm.
My Uncle Dale's 78 Ford, second pickup I ever drove completely by myself. The first one I ever drove completely by myself was my Uncle Dan's 78 GMC.
Mm-hmm.
And what model is Aaron Fentel? Also a 78. Booyah! That was that for awesome. And that 78 Ford with that 400 big block is maybe, I can say this because I know Uncle Dale doesn't listen to this podcast. First pickup I ever went 80 mile an hour in.
Right on. By yourself?
By myself.
You got it all the way to 80, huh?
About 13 years old on a gravel road.
Yeah. Well, I've done similar situations as a 13-year-old too.
And then I got a little freaked out and drove it pretty damn sane the rest of the day.
Yeah. You gotta get
now, my 16-year-old, I have to talk him into going the speed limit. So at some point, that my genetics wore off, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I don't know where that's at either, because I've just kind of always been hey, look, let's see if we can jump over this hill. I've been that guy,
right.
And my son's not, he's like, 10 and 2, and
I know it.
Hey, Sunday driver, we got places to go, so come on, let's go.
No shit, I'm the same way. I'm like, you're going 64. He's like, the limit is 65. I'm like, he's like, that's the limit. I'm like, okay, go 70.
Yeah, it's funny. Makes me laugh. All
I'm
right,
like,
buddy.
dude, you got 5 mile an hour leeway. Come on.
Yep, you do. All right, buddy. Well, I think we knocked the guts out of this one. So, Aaron, folks, one more time, I want to reach out to you and get some of these super deals you got laying out there. What's the best way to do that again?
Call me, text me, 308-760-1193, or look me up on the Twitterverse at AARonFinTail.
Right on. And so coming up next, we have Miss Jacqueline Kramowski, and she's going to be our lady on the street, giving us the latest news and action report of the ag business out there. So
right on. Hit it, Jacqueline.
Hey, it's Jacqueline Kramowski bringing you this week's ag news update, brought to you by the Herd Book Ag Media. Coming out of D.C. this week, we have several reports. President Biden's new immigration proposal could be positive for certain ag sectors. This proposal offers a new pathway to legal status for immigrants, which would also make more employment and family-based visas available. This also includes additional work permits for spouses and children of current temporary work visa holders to be granted. However, officials have stated the number of work visas, specifically the H-1B for highly skilled and the H-2B visas for lower skilled non-agriculture workers, will not be expanded. The Raise the Minimum Wage Act was reintroduced by Democrats in both the House and Senate this week. If passed, pay would increase from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour by the year 2025. Afterwards, future increases would be tied to median growth. This would spell the end of sub-minimum wages for disabled, youth, and guaranteed tipped workers. Republicans, however, remain skeptical, and the Senate will require 10 more Republican support at least if this is going to pass. However, there is also discussion of the debt reconciliation, which could push this forward regardless, so stay tuned. All right, in USDA world, due to the pandemic, The USDA will be suspending debt collections, foreclosures, and similar activities on farm loans. They have announced that this relief would be approximately for 10% of all borrowers. So that would mean about 12,000 individuals overall could benefit from this. However, in not so good news, the USDA has also suspended the processing and payments to farmers under the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, and this has been halted until further notice. Moving on to international news, the bird flu continues to rise throughout Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Millions of birds and thousands of flocks have been culled, and governments are working to assess the situation. In better news, China grain demand has been strong thus far from 2020 into early 2021 now, and demand is continued to grow with a current 1.36 million tons of corn being exported thus far. The Federal Maritime Commission is investigating reports that agricultural shipping containers have been leaving U.S. ports empty to return to Asia to pick up imports of higher value. This was first reported by CNBC, as reports from New Jersey, California, and New York show that they are violating the Shipping Act of 1984, with data to prove that high volumes of containers have been leaving U.S. docks as quickly as possible rather than properly being loaded. This currently remains under investigation. All right, weather-wise, the Southwest region here may be in for a drought season. As of January thus far, about 46% of the U.S. has been experiencing moderate or worse rainfall than usual. If this projection continues, we could be on par for a drought that is similar to what happened in the summer of 2012, just based on what we've seen thus far in January. However, we continue to watch. Equipment sales could be very positive in 2021. According to the USDA Economic Research Service, net farm income in 2020 was projected to increase $35 billion. That represents the fourth consecutive year net farm income has gone up, and that trend could be set to continue as projections for 2021 are also looking positive thus far. According to the Idaho State Journal, various equipment retailers have shared their enthusiasm as the economy recovers in 2020 that this year could end up being very positive for retailers and manufacturers. All right, that catches y'all up on this week's news updates brought to you by the Herdbook Ag Media, serving all your agribusiness, writing, and communication needs.
Well, thank you, Jacqueline, for that great report. I am Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all the latest posts of the Moving Iron Podcast and Moving Iron blog. Hit up Aaron Fennell on Twitter at Aaron Fentel. Hit up Jacqueline on her Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram, and LinkedIn page at _Herdbook. Rich Posson also has a Twitter page as well. Make sure you check that out at Rich _Posson. And make sure you check out my website, MovingIronLLC.com. This is where you find all the editions of the Moving Iron Podcast since number 1, as well as all of the blog posts from the Moving Iron blog. If you wish to learn more about the Moving Iron Podcast and their contributors, check out the Moving Iron Podcast tab and go down and check out the Moving Iron Podcast markets and Moving Iron Podcast contributors, and you'll get all the information about who's out there and their bios and get a good feel for who they are. On the website, you can also find the information for the Moving Iron Summit in Nashville, Tennessee, September 15th to the 17th. If you're a dealer of any kind and you'd like to attend this, please check out the agenda and the speakers. And I promise you, once you take a look at that, it's going to be an event that you don't want to miss. It's a great networking opportunity as well. If you have any questions, you can also email me at MovingIronPodcast at MovingIronPodcast.com. And check out Rich Posson's podcast called Critical Point Podcast out there on Podbean. Just go to Podbean and just search Critical Point Podcast, and it'll be there for you. So anything having to do with the economy, Rich is my go-to guy, and he has a great handle on what's going on out there. So lastly, a couple buddies of mine do a little podcast called the Dryland Farmer Podcast, and Brent and Landon are pretty funny what they do, and they'll keep you entertained throughout your day and what you're traveling. With that, I am Casey Seymour with Aaron Fennell and Jacqueline Kramowski. Let's go move some iron, folks. Out. You want to have a meaningful competitive advantage to help sell more equipment. Whether you represent the sales, parts, or management department of an implement dealership, there's a surprising amount of complexity when it comes to tire, wheel, and track technology. Let Axon worry about that so you can get back to supporting your customers. Axon has leveraged years of experience to create a streamlined process that gives you a proven path to help today's grower and sell more equipment. The roots of their organization go back almost 100 years to the invention of the rubber tractor tire. Supporting agriculture is the number one driver of Axon, from product development through sales and service. To find more or become an Axon dealer, head over to axontire.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century.